Hello there, and welcome to my analysis of the December balance preview notes. This looks like it's going to be an awesome set of changes. The summary would be great vision, incredible ability to try and read what the game needs by breaking Brad. He's really filling big shoes in Peter Kamseya, but he's doing a great job, it seems. However, obviously, if you've know anything about the game, reading it, and if you've played the balance mod especially, you will notice that OKW are arguably now the most powerful faction, or one of, in the history of the game series, but that's because it's a balance mod, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to give feedback. So that's the TLDR version. Great innovative changes, good vision of what needs to happen. However, obviously OKW in this state would be horrendously overpowered. Now allow me to laboriously go through all the notes one by one, and I'm sure you'll enjoy that greatly. The OKW revamp is now 100% for munitions and fuels. The original design idea was that they would be a limited faction that have specialist units that are elite units and take a while to come out. That was the... Obviously they have such powerful units that the limitation on them would balance it out basically. Now that's been removed. That design intention has been removed. Also self-destruct has been removed, so there's an interesting play style that never quite enacted itself on the game. We never really saw self-destruct work very well, so the fact that it's removed neither here nor there. The tech tree, however, the tech tree is now very interesting. Perhaps we should, before we get onto the tech tree, so I'm going to go down a little bit, I'm going to talk about some of the units that are changing for OKW. The Kubelwagen can now capture with a 15% faster capture rate. This is the spiritual successor to not Kubelwagens, but Schwimmwagens and also Kettenkrads from the Panzer Elite faction of Company of Heroes 1. Panzer Elite had Panzer Grenadiers, nothing like Wehrmacht Co. 2 Panzer Grenadiers, 3-man squads that were very glass cannon orientated. Once they got their upgrades and once they started to snowball, they were really blobberific and could push really hard, so very centered in the center of the map. All the while the Kettenkrads and the Schwimmwagens would cap the rest of the map. This now will be, as I said earlier, the spiritual successor to that kind of playstyle seemingly, because you get the Kubelwagen capturing 15% faster than other units. It is now no longer an MG substitute, however. You will be needing your MG34 from, for example, the Luftwaffe Doctrine in order to crowd control. So suppression has been removed. Range has also been nerfed slightly, from 40 to 35. Cost reduced to make up for the fact it no longer has suppression. Armour increased slightly, so it can withstand a little bit more penetration, not much more. And rear armour especially has been increased from 2 to 4.5. Combat package. Now this is your Shreks. It also brings along a lot of other benefits, or classically it did when blizzards were a thing, but combat package is Shreks. That's now 90 to 70, which is a big wholesale decrease, a big buff for Volksgrenadiers and their Shreks. Shreks are very, very powerful. I've been playing with this balance mod, as I've already mentioned tonight, and I'm managing to get Shreks before 3 minutes. Therefore, M3s, M20s, AECs, anything that the Allies can field in light armour, Stuarts, completely and utterly negated. If your backbone infantry have Shreks on their shoulders within that short amount of time, there's no point light armour playing, because 70 is a big buff. Stern Pioneer's further reduction in manpower costs, so 2 Stern Pioneer builds will be even more viable. He's also tried to make the new Firestorm Doctrine a little bit more appealing, with having the Stern Pioneer Flame Explode Critical removed. Volksgrenadiers now have 2 grenades. They have the Flame Grenade, and they have the Incendiary Grenade rather, and they have the Fragmentation Grenade also. So they have 2 grenades in their box. On the bottom right of your screen you'll see 2 icons now, which is really interesting. Both cost 30 munitions. You both get them after 1 truck has been deployed, so it's going to be a very interesting change. I don't have too many opinions on that quite yet, just that it's interesting. The Kart 98K rifle has its damage increased from 10 to 12. Very welcome change. Volksgrenadiers need to have their vanilla weapon increased a little bit in damage, and I think everybody could agree with that. He's tried to anticipate the 5-minute Panzer Luke's tank. Now I'm going to get onto the 5-minute Luke's tanks. That's to do with the building changes that I actually went past. but the cost increased from 55 to 65 fuel, so that's only a 15 increase. King Tiger. King Tiger is now a non-doctrinal call-in. Therefore, you need to tech for it in order to bring it onto the battlefield. It is no longer tier 0 in that you have to build everything to get it. It is limited to 1, because Breaking Brad's answer was always, oh yeah, it has to be a non-doctrinal call-in to be able to limit it if it's a heavy super tank. It wasn't that they were heavy super tanks, the IS-2, the Tiger. It was that they were a non-doctrinal call-in, in his opinion. So now he's made it a non-doctrinal call-in to allow him to accept that feedback from the community, in that the fact that King Tiger was only, you can have as many as you want, which was weird, wasn't it? But anyway, that's fair enough. Population reduced to 21. It's more than a quarter of your army taken up by a tank is a little bit silly, so that's a welcome change. Munition fuel transfer has been removed from the game. Very interesting. To the mechanised vehicle, no longer you can convert fuel to munitions to fuel. In fact, if as we go on through these patch notes, you will notice that he's removed every single element, nearly every single element, of non-counterable fuel munition manipulation. Basically, what he's trying to do is, do you know when you get the fuel drops from the Lend-Lease commander? Basically, he wants stuff like that. He does not want stuff like Soviet industry, where you can just generate fuel out of your arse. Very interesting, and I'm liking where he's going with that. So he's removed it from the game. He does not care about the original developer's intention and design. He is the balanced dev. He is taking big boy pants, putting them on, and doing what he wants with the game, which is good. It's what Peter Comsayer did in May 2004 when he did his small arms changes, which revolutionised the game and made it actually playable at a competitive level, in my opinion. So, Veterancy 4-5 changes. He's just tried to add some little nerfs in to make the overall faction not snowball too much. We don't need to go through them, don't worry. Let's go back up to the juicy pit. Tech Tree, the headquarters building, now has the Kugelwagen, Volksgrenadiers, Stern Pioneers, Rakettenwerfer, and also the trucks. The trucks now come out of the headquarter building. They're 200 manpower and 30 fuel. Sorry, that's not right, sorry. They were 100... Oh, God, I've got it wrong. Anyway, the trucks cost something. Each individual truck costs something. So you'll now notice you've got the battle group headquarters, the mechanised regiment headquarters, and the Schwerpanzer. They all cost individual manpower and fuel. However, the trucks already cost a small amount of fuel and manpower each. So it's going to be... So you have to add them up. However, from my experience, because it's a non-linear structure in how you deploy these trucks, you are going to be able to rush elements of this tech tree now a lot more. And the fact that he's, as we go on to say, so battle group headquarters, that's your healing truck, very important, which has got the infrared half-track, the ISG and the flak half-track. The mechanised regiment headquarters now has the Luke's Panzer II tank, which is why I said earlier 5-minute Luke's Panzer II is a completely viable option now, which is scary. And 6 minutes in a competitive game, 5 minutes against AI obviously, but 6 minutes realistically in a equally matched competitive game is crazy. What that is going to do is ensure that players are over anticipating the Lukes, have to get 80 on the field, and then you don't even build the Lukes, you get ISGs and stuff, and you allow your Volksgrenadiers to use their double variety of grenades to swarm all the support weapons. So either you have the ultimate light infantry Terminator tank on the field within 6 minutes, or you juke your opponent into going too much into anti-tank and you get an advantage that way. Basically, this is overpowered as crap. So changes will have to be made. You can see what Brad's going for with this OKW revamp, and it is very welcome because this faction has never fully felt like like it has parity with the other factions in terms of design quality. So he's trying to achieve that, which is great. However, there will need to be significant resource and timing changes to allow for the tech tree to feel like a natural progression rather than a ruffled stomp. Going onwards from OKW, USF have a fantastic change in that Rifle Company now has the rear echelon troops with the flamethrower, not the rifles. That is awesome because that was allowing top tier players, any players, to take advantage of especially building orientated maps and just spam rifles with flamethrowers. Your backbone infantry that are very, very fleshy and can take a beating to have flamethrowers on them, and especially since August change, where the flamethrower used to be able to be critted at any point in the squad hierarchy. So it could be the third man, the first man, the fourth man. Now it has to be the fifth man. So they've changed it. And when they changed it, it created a snowballing effect where Rifle Company all of a sudden was the most powerful commander in the game. So now he's changed that. It's going to open up so much balance potential for Wehrmacht versus USF. It's unreal. Really good change. Fire Up now replaces elite riflemen. So there you see the buying of veterancy in this case, or the unfair, uncounterable resource manipulation, as we talked about earlier, is now being countered by Fire Up ability. So maximum speed for a period of time. After that, they suffer exhaustion. Rear echelons have been, I was going to say nerfed, but they have not been nerfed. They've been scaled, which is different because the cost has been nerfed and the damage has been buffed. So basically, he doesn't want them to be a spammable unit anymore. What he would have been seeing in a lot of matches where players had begun to rear echelon spam as a viable tactic, and that is not how they intend the design, basically. Riflemen have had their Veterancy 3 requirements 2240 to 2576, so it's been a little nerf there just to reflect their performance. M10 has had its cost increased because the M10 from Armour Company was becoming incredibly relied upon. It was such a great tank that you could argue that it was overperforming slightly relative to its design intentions, so they've done that. The bazookas have had an improvement. They were arguably a little bit underpowered. Now they are more accurate across the board. P47, now this is really good. All of his call-in planes have been changed for the better. We'll get onto them each individually, but the P47 rocket strike as now, obviously you'll notice all the planes now have a minimap UI icon to make it more understandable what's going on. It can no longer be targeting base sectors, so no longer we have that reversing Tiger tank with the P47s railing on him, and sight has been reduced to 0, so it does not get the recon benefit, so it's not a double barrel benefit. UKF emplacements can no longer be abandoned. That's fair enough, makes a lot of sense. It was, not that great that they could be. Infantry section, this had a lot of changes. Reload penalty has been reduced from 1.5 to 1.4, so a little buff there. Cooldown reduced from 1.3 to 1.2, so again, that'll add in with the reload penalty. However, the damage has also been reduced from 16 to 14, so it's no longer a little bit orangey orientated whether they'll get the shot in and whether that shot will do 16 damage. Now they fire more shots, and those shots individually do less damage, so it's a bit of a trade-off there. The target size increased from 0.8 to 0.9, so that's a nerf. The accuracy bonus reduced 1.4 to 1.2 for Veterancy 3, and then a bunch of Boys AT rifle changes. So that's not necessarily nerfs or buffs. It'll be very interesting to see how they play. I must admit I've only really played OKW and Soviets in the balance mod so far, so this is me commenting on these with fresh eyes. The coordinated fire veterancy requirements for sniper have been removed. Interesting. Critical shot now requires veterancy 1. That is a good change because you were rushing to counter the sniper with your 222 and it was getting shots off when it really didn't make sense for it to have that critical shot straight away. It removed damaged engine on penetration. That's interesting. I'm not 100% sure on that. I did quite like that it was a snare as well. Maybe it's removed some of the utility there. We'll have to see how that plays out. Heavy engineers have got appropriate cost and research time ability. I'm sure we'll all accept that as reasonable. The Churchill Changes, now this is interesting. It's increased from 150 fuel to 180. So you could argue it was possibly being over-relied on. I'm not going to say overpowered, but over-relied on, so that's probably to reflect that. Churchill Crocodile's receiving a further nerf relative to the last patch, so its damage is going from 32 to 25. and the veterancy requirements also being increased. So a further nerf to that unit. That just goes to show just how powerful it was when it first came out. It was ridiculous, wasn't it? £6 AT guns having its cost increased. It was a really good AT gun, so 280 was arguably a little bit cheaper for that. Valentine I can't comment on. I've never really used it too much, but 6 now. I suppose it's more. It's not that great for 6. I've seen Imperial Dane's Lear cast on it, and I've seen a few other casts with it. Doesn't seem that great. Hawker Typhoons only target vehicles now. I'm sure that you'll accept that makes a lot of sense. And of course, the minimap UI icon is also a welcome change. On to Wehrmacht. Stuka Close Air Support only targets vehicles. Thank God. It was so overpowered. It was getting squad wipes on casts I was watching. Really ridiculous there. Strafing Run also has its sight reduced along with the Stuka Air Support. That's great change. Minimap icon. And it can no longer be targeting base sectors. Again, same with the others. Really good change there. Don't know why that took so long to get in, to be honest. Now with elite troops, this is interesting. Instead of having bought veterancy on your units, you now get stormtroopers, which really fits the doctrine well because stormtroopers are obviously elite troops and they were a little bit underused, so it'll be interesting to see how they play in. This is the only nerf that Osttroopen, who were getting really over relied upon for Wehrmacht. It's just the Osttroopen reserves of the mobile doctrine and such that they no longer get random veterancy on spawn, which makes a lot of sense. Again, that's in line with his changes for no bought veterancy and such. Good change. Jaeger light infantry upgrade. Don't really know how I feel about that, to be honest. Allowing players to get the upgrade relatively on the same time as the LMG42. 3 to 1. That makes a lot of sense because it's an interesting trade-off between the LMG42, which you have to be stationary, and the G43, which has you can fire whilst you're moving. So it makes sense that their parity is there in terms of command points. Good change. It shows he's got a good development and knowledge of the game, in my opinion. Close air support doctrine. Osttroopen doctrine replaced obviously the redistribute resources. He's removing it. Let me make sure that's the case. He hasn't said the ability there, so that text needs changing. But the redistribute resources is being replied with supply drop zone, which makes a lot of sense because there's no counterplay to redistribute resources. Very good change. On to Soviets. Soviet Windustry, as it was, became ironically known because it was actually quite terrible in the past year since it got nerfed after it originally was introduced. It's been removed. The doctrine's still there, the commander's still there, but now it's an allied supply drop, which is very interesting. The Sturmovik attacks only target infantry, so it could be argued they're a little bit overpriced for that now. Sight reduced to 0, minimap icon again, and such. KV2, bringing in the unit in line with other heavy vehicles, has always been a bit rubbish for what it costs, I think. A little bit easy to flank as well, easy for other vehicles to take out. Population reduced from 24 to 19, HP increased from 800 to 1040, very good change. And bug fixes, I presume that's not much on that. I'm probably running over in terms of how long I wanted this to take. Thank you for watching. Watch FlexiTime Championships cast by Relic on Friday at 10 PM PMT plus 8 hours, so 6 PM GMT. Cast by General's Gentlemen. Also, there'll be a co2.org post soon and a Reddit post saying when the finals will be cast. That will be this weekend. I hope you enjoy that as well. And thank you for watching, and goodbye.